Hey everyone, Rob here from Gunfather Milsim. Today I'm bringing you a gun review of my Arcturus AK01, or rather a Project Complete gun review. Now when I do reviews of guns, I generally do two. I do an initial one with limited upgrades, maybe one time on the field, just let you know what I think about it. And then I give you like the Project Complete a year later or whenever, where I've been actually fielding the gun for a while, upgraded it to a point where I'm happy with it. And sometimes those are very similar and sometimes they're very different. In this case, there's some pretty significant differences. Namely, the big two problems I had with this gun initially, I've now found ways around them and fixed them. And now it's honestly damn near my favorite AEG right now is this gun. This thing is phenomenal. So let's talk about some of the basic upgrades I made in this gun. First thing, I switched out the hop-up unit. I switched to a Retro Arms AK hop-up. Cost like $35 on e-bike. I switched out because I had it lying around and I always had good luck with it in my Sima builds, so I decided to just stick with it for this gun. And I used a modified gray hop-up bucking. Worked great. I didn't see any reason to go outside of that. Next thing I did was upgrade the optic. This is an old school Aimpoint M2 I had lying around. I like using real optics on airsoft whenever possible. Oftentimes the warranty will cover BB strikes. I have a kill flash on there that does protect it a little bit from a BB strike. I've never had a problem with it. The actual mount is an RS Regulate mount. This is like one of my favorite mounts for real steel of all times. This thing is awesome. Any AK you have, get yourself an RS Regulate mount. It's not the most affordable in the world, but it is really slick and it just mounts really flush to the side of the receiver. It's just a really good looking mount. So that did it for the optic. Next, upgraded the motor. The stock motor was okay, but at kind of 400 FPS limits of our field, that 1.48 joule, I found after you shot it for a long time, the motor would get kind of hot, which tells me it's working too hard. So I upgraded to a high torque motor. It was one I had laying around from a previous AK build. I couldn't even tell you the brand. It was a generic one. But once I upgraded it, it didn't have any more problems, and I got some snappier kind of trigger response. I don't really think it's overly important, but some people like to see it. So here's the trigger response with the high torque motor and 11.1 volt battery. Okay, and full auto sounds like this. Okay, that's actually a little slower than it usually is, probably because that battery is a little low. Now I'm going to talk about battery space. And battery space is really the biggest complaint I had of this gun in my initial review, and I did find a good solution. For starters, the factory space, and the factory space on all Arcturus AKs is under the dust cover. And honestly, there just isn't a lot of space under here to fit a battery. The only one I could find that worked was this 900 mAh stick battery because I like using 11.1. I found on 7.4 volts, this gun's just really anemic. Some people say run an 11.1 volt battery, you're gonna burn out the micro switch trigger. I found that not to be true, and I've played with it a lot. Other people may have different experience, but for my part, it's been fine. So using these 900 mAh batteries with this high torque motor wasn't really working out really well in the field. I was only getting about a game and a half out of each battery. I'd have to switch them out. It was a pain in the ass to switch out in the field because I had to remove my optic and remove that top cover. And it was just kind of a lot of work to get this thing to fit in here correctly. I was just fed up with it. So I kept trying to look into if I could switch the battery position to the stock. And I'd always look at it from here, from above, and I would look down and say, you know what, there's just no room for me to switch the battery over to the stock. It just didn't look like there was space there. And finally I was watching a review, somebody's review on YouTube, where they actually removed the stock, and I looked back there and I found, in fact, there was room. So one of the cooler features of the Arcturus AKs is you can remove this castle nut here. I used an AR armorer's wrench. It was on there pretty tight. I recommend you do the same. But once you remove this stock tube, you can actually see there's a path you can run those wires through. No drilling is required. In fact, the way it's set up in there, I would almost think it was designed that way on purpose, and I have no idea why Arcturus doesn't wire all their AKs to the rear. It just would make everything simpler. One change I did have to do, I had to drill out the stock tube here because it was solid. That took some doing, but honestly, if you have the right tools like a drill press and the right files, which I do to make this nice and smooth and pretty, it takes about 45 minutes, it takes some work, but it really wasn't too bad. Once you go through the trouble of making that change, it gives you a lot better battery options. So typically now, I run just a standard Magpul stock, and a 1400 mAh stick battery fits easily in there, and I can basically go a whole day with this. Or if you're doing like a 40-hour Milsim and you just don't want to mess with changing out batteries, you can get yourself a crane stock like this one. And this is actually the stock the gun came with. And then you can use something like this 2600 mAh Titan battery. This is like my battery of choice. Run these all weekend, never have to worry about it. Last big hurdle I had to get over with this gun was the magazines. Now it comes with two magazines from Arcturus, a mid cap and a high cap. This is the mid cap. They feed great, they work awesome. But I had a bunch of these. Okay, these are PTS mid caps. I love these magazines. The PTS mags look really cool, and after some sanding they fit quite well. But I never could quite get them to feed right. They'd feed great in the backyard, and then once I was on the field, I'm shooting away, and all of a sudden they stop feeding so well, and all of a sudden I'm pulling on the mag here, and I get them to feed by pulling on the mag, which is acceptable for some people, but my OCD just does not allow that. So ultimately, after lots of fighting with these mags, I gave up on them. I just couldn't get them to work. Ultimately, I bought another 5-pack of Arcturus factory mags for $60. Now they feed great, they work great. They're not as sexy as the PTS ones, but that's life. They work great, they function well. So in preparation for this video, I went to find the 5-pack of Arcturus mags. Turns out, I don't think they make these anymore. They're basically sold out everywhere. What I did find was Arcturus has a new magazine called the Variable Cap Silent mags. They cost like $120 for a 5-pack. So literally twice as much as these. So that's all I got for the Arcturus AK01 Project Complete gun review. Great gun, great performer, especially once you switch out the battery position from under the dust cover to the stock, upgrade the motor. It's going to be a great gun for you. If you guys like my content, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell. You know how YouTube works. Or better yet, support my content by buying some merchandise on my website. I literally make tens of dollars on YouTube. Not a lot of money in there for airsoft channels. But if you support my channel at my website, dieshowtactical.com, all that money helps me make more videos. You can buy Gunfather and Milsim patches there. These come in a variety of colors. This one's OD. I also run a small sling business on the website. You can find a variety of models and a variety of colors. This is my newest one. It's a 2-point adjustable, and you can find it there. Thanks for watching.